Salona.
Here.
Commissioner Pucci.
Present.
Commissioner Grace.
Here.
Commissioner Lozey.
Here.
And Commissioner Torrance is absent.
Minutes of the last meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Project update? Sure. The wastewater treatment plant, everything's going well. I gave, in your package, you have the monthly invoice from March, which, pretty self-explanatory. The O&M is $587,000. Electricity was $165,000 for the month. Then I have the capital improvements in your package as well. That ICI application number 18 is for $1.4 million. Most of the work was in the return activated sludge piping replacement. We did some work in the grid area. They did design modifications to the sludge dewatering building. We're doing Camden and Washington Street pump station renovations, which are the two large pump stations. We have some very small change orders and then some allowance issues. But everything at the plant's going well, full compliance with DEP and EPA regulations. Viola's doing a great job, and everything seems to be going reasonably well.
Any questions?
Mr. Commissioner, the Water and Sewer Commission is in compliance with all federal and state drinking water regulations. The water supply capacity as of yesterday was at 83%. The average for this time of year is 85%. 8 of the 10 contract full-time positions at the water treatment plant are currently filled. There's 1 operator position and 1 mechanic position that are currently open. And Veolia has informed me that they have viable prospects for both positions.
Any questions for Rick?
For the Bostic Dam,
Yeah, I think we probably want to go on executive session for a brief overview of Bostic Dam and maybe the DEP's water withdrawal registrations.
You can call a motion to approve.
Yeah.
A motion to go and take an executive session?
Yes.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Who do you need in it in?
We're gonna need the same as last time. Ryan, Rick, Anthony, Bob, and I think we're good. And Sam.
We're back from executive session
I'm
at
sorry, is this new way?
5:17. There was no votes to get taken.
Okay.
Next on the agenda.
CSO update, Anthony?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Phase 1 of the CSO project is fully complete now. All the punch list items have been done. And the final bill should be executed shortly. Phase 2, the force main, that's about 96% done. There's only a few punch list items on that, and that's the outfall pipe where the pump station will be pumping into that force main. So that work has moved quickly, and that should be completed very shortly. Phase 3, the pump station, Methuen Construction has completed rebar installation and concrete placement for the wet well base slab. They've set Jersey barriers. I think people have been driven by there, have seen that to help move traffic through. For the contractor to do the bypass plans during the construction of jacking of the pipe across the Linway. And they've also done some work on the electrical building, the under slab plumbing and so forth is complete. That project is about 42% complete. That's been moving quite well. Phase 4 and 5, I think we've been talking about for a couple months now. The easements are finally in place. The design is complete. We did get approval from Bass DEP on March 20th, 2023 to advertise it. We did go out to bid and advertise that. We did that on March 29th, 2023. That's when the plans were available to the contractors. The bid deadline will be April 26th, 2023. So that's moving along quickly. That should be enough time for the contractors to give us a competitive price. The construction cost estimate for this project is $30.7 million, so it's a big nut. We'll evaluate the bids, come back with the the lowest responsible bidder, and we'll bring that back to the board at that time to make a vote on it. And that's the CSO update.
Any questions? Next on the agenda, Jan?
Kings Beach update, we have Eric Kelly here. Anthony Kelly. Well, Eric, why don't you take over and give them an update? We put the monthly report in your package for March, which we submit to DEP and EPA relative to the progress activities. But Eric, why don't you take over?
So we spent the winter up around the park at Lynn English, finding no illicits, but finding a lot of maintenance issues in the drainage. It's a lot of older, smaller pipe, a lot of roots, sediment buildup, so done over a week's worth of CCTV up around there, not finding anything illicit, but just finding things that create maintenance headaches for the commission staff. So they've been cleaning there. We're meeting with staff this week to prep and plan for Stacy Brook for that CCTV work, so we can meet with the National Water Main crew just to go over where they can easily access portions of that, since it's the original trunk line. There might be elements that are either too deep, higher flow, and things like that might not make closed circuit inspection viable. We're also going to be needing to go over the springs monitoring locations. We're going back to revisit some of the areas that have been cleaned or repaired, plus also going back to secondary locations to rescreen, and we're including this round some DNA screening. There's a lab out in New Jersey that can actually differentiate whether there's presence of human DNA, which is a little quicker turnaround time and more cost effective than the pharmaceutical and personal care product testing. Those samples had to be shipped all the way to California to get run. So we're gonna do a little bit of both, and then we're starting to prep for the next catchment area, which is gonna be Floating Bridge Pond, which does discharge to the Kings Beach. It's just in the upper part of the watershed. So we're gonna be focusing there and then moving over to Flax or Sluice will be the next two after we get through the additional screening in the Kings Beach. But that's the plan for spring into summer, is really just Floating Bridge and additional screening in Kings Beach. We won't progress to the others until after we clear all that stuff out.
Did you say human DNA?
Yeah.
What would that entail?
You just take different water quality samples and they actually can differentiate between human and animal.
Okay.
So it's just a different analysis that we got turned on to by some other folks who've been doing it, and it's about a third the price of sending it off for the pharmaceutical care products and about half as much time waiting for the results. So
Thank you.
just using it as a potential different surrogate. Since there's no regulatory standards for the pharmaceutical and personal care products, it's kind of more like how much of the stuff do you see and whether you think it should be there or not, whereas we know the human DNA shouldn't be present. So.
Thanks. Any questions for Eric?
Question, do you have any thoughts, I know we talked about this last time, I think, about how to try to track any impact of this kind of work, or the Swampscott's work on what's coming out of the outfall at the end, knowing that all the fluctuations involved? Is there any, I guess, what are your thoughts on any kind of?
So the way we track is usually if you find an illicit, you just take water and sewer records and find out what that property's been doing for a period of time. So the three properties that have been disconnected roughly were about 100,000 gallons per year of sewage that was making it to the beach. So you can do it that way. If you're doing I&I repairs, again, you can come up with an approximation of the gallons per linear foot of rehab you're doing. So those are the best case scenarios. If you were able to try and get some auto samplers set up and get composites, you might be able to try and get a waste load out of it. But it's so flashy, depending on if you miss, if you're not drawing sample as the slug goes by you,
Yeah.
or worse, you're getting a super concentrated one and it's not indicative of what's going on 24/7. It can either be biased extremely high or low. So really, for our side, the Lynn side as opposed to Swampscott, if we're pulling illicits out, it's really just quantifying how much was that property discharging in years past to show material benefit, but it might not make a direct correlation to what's coming out at the end of the pipe. But we have been, anytime we've been doing our field screening, we do take an outfall sample at the same time, just so at least we have that as a reference point, not that they're directly connected, but that way we know what was happening on the day we were screening in terms of whether it was a good day, bad day, or just something in the range.
And how have those numbers been?
In the fall, there wasn't any correlation you could make, but they were consistent with what DCR was seeing,
500?
Yeah, I mean, you could have it as low or as in the mid-thousands. It just wasn't really connected to whether that day we saw anything in the screening we were doing. But that's something we're gonna continue doing. It's just every day we do field screening, there's a sample taken from the outfall, just to know on any given day.
Are you able to see like any trends over time with that? I mean, I know it's
Nothing in that, we're not out there with enough frequency. So DCR would actually, during the monitoring season, would be the best one to actually track, just because they're collecting dailies. But in ours are just too sporadic to be anything. You'd have to stand up like a composite sampler just to do something if you wanted for reference. Similar to what they do that's how they sample at the influent and effluent at the wastewater plant. So same idea, just hoping you catch something, but composite samples is about the only way you could get a representative of what's going on in the system.
when we talk about the illicit connections that we found, you said 100,000 gallons, 100,000.
Ballpark, yeah, the three, that was how much based on their pre-disconnection water records for the year prior.
I mean, just rough order of magnitude, what percentage would that be like from the overall?
I don't know how much that, nobody's modeled that storm system to know what its daily low flow and high flow discharges are, but I would, at 100,000 gallons per year, it's probably not much in terms of like, it's all helpful,
Right.
but in terms of like a percent of flow, I wouldn't expect it to be very high, just for, there were 3 single families, so. If you find a larger multifamily or an apartment unit that is potentially producing, 10 times that amount, then you start getting into something probably a little higher significance. But a single family home is not probably a huge contributor in the grand scheme.
Understood.
I know I'd asked on email whether or not we can commissioners join you on some of your work just to see how it goes. I think it'd be really helpful for some of us to kind of see what goes into it. Because I think a lot of people just think, you just threw your head down the pipe and you look around and you see something's going on and why aren't things going quicker and all that kind of stuff.
EPA and DEP have visited the field crews since we got started in the fall of 21, I guess that makes it. Spring of 22. It's the stuff that's coming near term is CCTV work followed by the field screening, but we can make our schedule available.
Yeah, I think it'd just be interesting to think about.
I know EPA, Doug Koopman had stopped out to see the crew when we first got started about a year ago, so.
Sure, I'll give you that.
Yeah, the only other question I have for the project that's going on Commercial Street, kind of similarly, do you know, is anyone taking like photographs of that work, do you know, just to show, I don't know, it's amazing to see it from the road, and I know it's a huge project, and I always feel like visuals are helpful. Do you know if they're, documenting the progress over time at all visually? Does anyone know?
Yeah.
Did you get like, because it's pretty insane actually when you drive by, because I was like, it's just gonna be a pump station, pump station.
Right.
And you go down, see how far down they went into the ground. I was like, that is major.
Dave Van Hoven from Stantec is here.
Okay.
And he's got a full-time resident engineering crew out there.
Yep.
Overseeing the contract, taking videos and pictures and all
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty
Yeah, and the
impressive.
contractor has a video camera up, watching it all live.
Yeah, but you're taking structure photos.
Yes.
I just think it's a great way to show, again, what ratepayers are paying for, what this actually takes when you think, okay, it's X millions of dollars to put in a pump station.
Right.
The average person has no idea what the hell that means.
Yeah.
This is like, wow, that is quite a problem. The cranes and just the work to get, there's a lot of activity there. It's impressive.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
What?
Any other questions for Eric? Next on the agenda, Dan?
The resolution increase. So about a year ago, the board approved, passed a resolution to fund the capital improvements at the wastewater treatment plant through the Mass DEP program. And that was for an amount not to exceed $70,328,732. Tonight, we're asking for an increase of $3,689,059 to a total of not to exceed $74,017,091. The reason being is in the actual bid, we included an allowance of $3.5 million in the actual bid, in the original $70,300,000, whatever that number was. We had $3.5 million for allowance, and that allowance was for items that were work that was going to be performed, but because it's a wastewater treatment facility and everything is basically underwater, we couldn't get accurate estimates of what those dollar amounts were. So we put an allowance in the original $70 million bid again. They were for grit removal, hazardous material testing, sampling analysis, testing of the carbon in the vessels, for relocations, utility relocations at the plant, among other things, 2 or 3 other things. So that was what we put the $3.5 million aside for. We didn't put it aside for a contingency. A contingency would be for change orders, things that were necessary, and we do have a few of them as well. So every construction contract has to have a contingency item. We didn't have it, so this increases for that. I don't envision us coming close to spending either of the allowance or the $3.5 million for the allowance, or the 3.6 addition here for the contingency. But we have to have it approved per the Mass Clean Water Trust, and get a formal vote from you, just like we did a year ago for the original 70 mil in the amount of 74 million, the number again I stated earlier. And we need that vote tonight, and I don't envision spending this money, but we need to have it itemized to pay for the change orders, because we have money for the allowances. So that's what we're looking for.
And I'll make that motion that we move to adopt the resolution authorizing an increased clean water trust loan relating to project approval certificate CW-21-22.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Salona,
Abstain.
Commissioner Calucci,
Yes.
Commissioner Grace,
Yes.
Commissioner Lozey,
Yes.
and Commissioner Spahn is absent.
We're all set.
I don't think we have anything further, no.
Yeah.
I have something to say. I want to remember Buzzy Barton, a friend of all of us. If you had the pleasure to meet him, you would feel the same way, and pray for his family.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Great guy.
Yeah. Good
Hey.
friend.
Yep.
And, motion to adjourn.
Second.
A second.